Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this special conversation with Koshin Paley Ellison and Robert Chodo Campbell, folks I've known for many years, who I'm just delighted to welcome to the Seekers Forum. We're going to be talking today about chosen family and the importance of spiritual friendship to awakening and to the spiritual life. So without further ado, you guys, I'd just like to begin with a general question. In the Upada Sutra, the Buddha tells Ananda that having good friends is the whole of the holy life. And I was really struck by that, the whole of the holy life. Can we talk about the importance of friendship and spiritual community on the path of awakening? And I'm just going to toss it out to both of you, whoever wants to begin. I'd love to hear from you.
Koshin is the most awakened one. I'll leave it to the
Well, it's a beautiful teaching, and it's really the importance of the spiritual path is integral to relationships. So very often, actually, our Zen students here at the Zen Center will ask me, like, how is my spiritual practice going? How do you think my meditation practice is going? And I ask, tell me about your relationships with the people at the grocery store, and tell me about what do you know about them, and what are their names, and how are we engaged in our life? And if we don't have that kind of both close friends and people who know us as people who are interested in that spiritual way of being, as well as the expression of that, to me is also really tied to how kind are we and how awake are we on the street or in the grocery store or in the bank or wherever, in the coffee shop. And like Chodo actually is like a kind of a little celebrity in a way in our local coffee shop, mostly because he just addresses everyone with so much kindness, and the people making the drinks, and they're not used to people even seeing them as human beings. And so I think that while formal spiritual community is super helpful, and in terms of a chosen family, it is all of our spiritual life to really, the barometer of it is how are we cultivating nourishing relationships from those interstitial relationships like I was talking about, but also really finding a place of belonging. And that has always was a very difficult thing for me and early on, and has become the most important, is to really have a community where I'm known and I can know, so that I can also receive spiritual care and offer spiritual care equally.
Well done. Excellent response.
Can we get to talk a little bit more about belonging, Koshin? Why was that a challenge for you, and how did that connect to your moving into Buddhism?
Hmm.
Well, I come from a background with a lot of difficulty and a lot of different forms of abuse and different forms of challenge. And so belonging never felt safe to me. But I was bringing a story of, as I think most of us do, that we have a childhood story and then we bring that around, almost like wearing a Halloween costume all the time. And so we're still interacting with other environments as adults, as if we're in that back then story. So I was in a back then story, wearing it around, saying like, oh, belonging means I could be in danger. And so I felt very lonely and very sad and really wanted to belong, but I was really afraid to belong. And so I think that that is a very important thing to learn how to set down. Like, is this really what is my fear and anxiety around committing to a belonging? And I think it is a commitment to belonging and a commitment to getting out of our small little self and actually allowing ourselves to be alive it might even be a choice of moving from a necrotic, like a death pull, to choosing life, actually.
So choosing connection, choosing belonging is choosing life.
I think, I actually have never put it in that way, but I feel like actually the way that I was functioning was uh, kind of dead. It was not alive. It was not lively. And I was really behaving as if I was in another time. So there was no life force.
Mm-hmm. Does that resonate with you, Chodo?
Similarly, with regards to childhood upbringings, my mother was 17 when she had me, so an unmarried, so a single parent who chose crazy guys. She was a crazy, wild person, and so we never really belonged anywhere, the both of us, because we were going. She would be one man to the next, basically. So I would be at some point living with my mother's sister or my mother's aunt or another aunt. So back and forth, and never really knowing when mom would return from one of her jaunts off wherever she was going. So it was that kind of saying, so whom does this child belong? Because there was no sense of living anywhere permanently. My aunt was herself had 10 children, but I was never really part of that family because I was the seen by my uncle as the bastard child of the whore of the sister, so it's like, and I learned that from a very early age that I didn't belong in that family. Also, I didn't belong in my other aunt's family because it was my great aunt, so she was already probably in her 50s when I was born, so she was old, she was ancient to me. So she'd already raised her children. So the sense of belonging was anathema, it's like, I don't understand what belonging means really, because so I chose a life of drugs and alcohol, sex, rock and roll. So I didn't really belong anywhere either. You know, uh, yeah, so from early childhood into my teens, into adolescence, into young adulthood, it was just moving from one place to the next. And then I spent my life from my leaving home at 16 to my mid-30s of a series of geographics living pretty much all around the Middle East and Europe, going from one country to the next for a year here and a year there, but never, and so I was searching, I think, for somewhere to belong, having no spiritual background, no knowledge really of spirituality, spiritual life. It was all about the only spirits, I had was the alcohol. So this sense of belonging didn't really appear in my life until I got sober, which was 35 years ago now, 36 years. So that was when I first stepped onto the path of belonging to something or someone, but very, very mistrusting of it.
You're talking about AA.
Talking about my stepping into 12-step program, and even in those groups thinking, no, I don't trust any of you. Because that's not my history. I've always taken care of myself. Well, taking care of myself is meant getting fucked up.
Right, right.
So I dropped the F bomb. I hope you can.
That's fine. We're grown-ups here. We're all
Thank you.
adults here. And
Yes,
so go ahead, please.
I'll go play his bong.
I was going to say, did this fear of belonging or discomfort with belonging bleed into your relationship to Sangha when you first came to Buddhism?
Of course, yes. I mean, it took me a while to work through triggers, even someone just being nice, being friendly would be for me a sense of fear around inappropriate touching from childhood. I mean, so many triggers, so many kind of like back then stories that I were carrying with me. So even someone showing affection would be something to be mistrusted. Someone to be saying, I can help you. Like, I don't need your help. I was a very, very independent, stalwart. I don't need anyone in my life to help me. I'm good. I've survived. I'll do this. So
And,
yeah, so
and
even
in AA, they say, do it alone, you do it again. Isn't that one
right,
of the
and again,
mottos?
again, and again, and again, and again.
Right, right.
12 step, the AA brought me to my Buddhist path. So I couldn't really deal with the God stuff in AA. It's very much God-centric when back in those about 36, 37 years ago, for me anyway. The story for me was if there was a God, I would not have gone through. Why did I go through all this stuff as a child?
Right.
So I threw God out very early in my life and stepped onto the Buddhist path through a relationship and with a therapist. No, it wasn't a relationship with my therapist, through my therapeutic relationship. Buddhist path.
What about you, Koshin, with Sangha? Was that a challenge for you in terms of your own, early bad experiences with belonging?
Yeah, I mean, I was in many different sanghas for a while, and I've written about this too. And I was in my teenager years. I was on a Greyhound bus, and I was sitting next to this woman, and she said, "Oh, are you a Buddhist?" Because I had some beads on, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm Buddhist." She's like, "So you're spiritual?" And I felt really like egocentric about it. And I thought it was cool that someone saw that I was a spiritual person. And she said, "Oh, so who is your teacher?" And I said, "Oh, I'm, studied with Sharon Salzberg and Joseph Goldstein and Jack Kornfield and Gaelic Rinpoche and John Dodler." She's like, "Well, it sounds like you don't really belong anywhere."
Mm. Was that a wake up for you? Was that a light bulb moment for you?
And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "It sounds like you're a lone wolf." And I said, "I am a lone wolf." And she said, "Well, the thing is about lone wolves is that they're sick." And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, oh shit. Like I didn't even, it was so amazing, like this woman, on this trip, on this Greyhound bus, going somewhere in Colorado, because she was willing just to say what she thought. Also, like that is a spiritual friend, and it really was the beginning of realizing like I have work to do. I do not actually belong anywhere. I have actually met wonderful teachers, and yet I have not really shown up for in community. And it's so specific, in Buddhism that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are the three treasures, our awakened mind. I was down with that. And studying the Dharma, like studying texts and learning and hearing teachings, I was down with that. But Sangha was, and I realized now, and, running a center and meeting many people, is that, most of us have struggled with community and belonging. And as we know, from Vivek Murphy's beautiful prescription that he wrote for it as he was leaving his post, and also our friend Bob Waldinger's work in the Harvard study on human flourishing, that our connectivity and our belonging is core to our overall health and well-being. And as another friend of Chodo and I always says, lonely monkeys are dead monkeys. Like we need each other. And so that healing of isolation to belonging has been life-giving to me.
Mm-hmm. So would you classify Sangha as chosen family?
That's an interesting question because the Sangha really chooses us, right?
Yeah.
They come, they walk through the door and they say, "Yep, this is my family, this is my home," or they don't come back.
Yes.
So I think initially, yes, I think the chosen, the family, the Sangha chooses us, and then it's how we relate to the Sangha as family. And like, for our Sangha anyway, it's like any other family. It has its dysfunctions, it has its beautiful moments, that is its tricky moments, and because we see it, I think possibly, well, I think not possibly, but I think for sure that Coach and I have done so much work around our own um, our own history around what family is and what family is not and what family should be and shouldn't be. We've done a lot of work around that. And then so in our own Sangha, we come from a very, very, I think, educated, healthy place. We can see our triggers, our own triggers. I for sure when my students touch into something that's kind of a tricky moment for me, I can say, you know what? At an appropriate moment, let's talk about that. And when they say to me, and when a student asks to become one of my students, I say, you know what, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to hurt you in some way, not willingly, but I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to disappoint you. I'm probably not the person you think I am right in this moment. I don't need to be put on a pedestal. I have many failings, and we need to talk about this really, really clearly and openly. If you want me to be your teacher, then you need to accept me for my failings, as I will with yours. It has to be that healthy kind of openness and at the same time maintaining boundaries, but not placing the teacher here and the student here. We have to be on the same level. We can't have some hierarchy. I don't believe in the hierarchy. I think we have to be the hierarchy in as much that I am better than or I know more than, because very often I don't know more than. I just have a different experience of life. So that has to come into play too. So
yeah,
it's about family, I think, in a broad sense of family.
I like, in a way, it's such an interesting question, about chosen family, because it's also assuming there's a choice, and so for me, it never, I don't know if I feel like I ever chose it, but it does feel like a family. And, actually in our school is a lineage so that goes from Shakyamuni Buddha down to us, and then through us to our students and beyond. And it is actually thought of like a family tree. And so it is like for me, it's been always a very healing relationship. And oftentimes, like we talk about, like my teacher's teacher is like my Dharma grandfather, and so like, there's and my teacher, he says, I'm your Dharma father, so like that, there's a language of family that for me has been very healing. And when he first said that to me, I just felt so moved, and I feel that in many ways, like we kind of joke in a way, but it's also not a joke that like our Sangha members are like our children, like there's a beautiful way that that can be held in a healthy and loving way. And I think what Chodo, what you're saying, is like the most important is like, it's not like we are a perfect sunshine family. We are like a real family, like where we're going to talk about real things. And actually, I was talking with one of our Sangha members this morning, and he said, I want to tell you something that you're not going to like. And one of the things I love about our Sangha is that you actually don't need me to tell you things that you're going to like. And so that I was like, wow, that is a wonderful barometer for the health of our community. That people know they don't have to be pleasing, because many of us come from backgrounds where we had to be pleasing for different reasons. I do, for sure. And so it's very wonderful to, and not that we ever do it right, but there's a willingness, as Chodo was also saying, about the willingness to not be perfect, not be right, that we will disappoint each other because we're human beings, and our willingness to be in the discomfort and the weirdness of it. is a-
and not pretend to some kind of omniscience
Mhm.
as teachers. And also, it sounds to me like you're careful not to infantilize students just because you're using this child parent kind of language. That doesn't mean that there's a one up, one down kind of dynamic that kind of gives you more power.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know.
I think the good parent empowers the child, right? Good parent empowers the child to ask the questions, to be curious, to be disappointed. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We-
Let's talk. Go ahead. Sorry, Chodo.
Oh, no, and as Koshin said, we're not going to do it perfectly, but we're willing to do it as best we can.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation from the Seekers Forum. If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview and learn more about our robust collection of talks, videos, and guided writing sessions, please join us at theseekersforum.com and sign up for our free 30-day trial membership. I hope to see you there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.